Okay, this is Robert Thibodeau, Mayflower Bookshop in Berkley, Michigan. Website is at mayflowerbookshop.com and on YouTube with songs and talks. I wanted to share with you the astrology of the presidential election. And as many of you know, I was like the only notable astrologer who predicted that Trump would win the first election that he ran, that Trump would win. Then he would lose. There were 300 astrologers in the Wall Street Journal, the famous astrologers, they said, the most famous. And they predicted Mrs. Clinton would win. And the Wall Street Journal thought I would not be included because I was the only notable astrologer that predicted Trump. A lot of interesting things happened when I ended up being right. My friend Ray Merriman mentioned it in his newsletter, and I got some interesting political people from Washington getting readings where I predicted that Mrs. Clinton would not run the next election or she would lose. And then when asked, well, who would beat Trump? And I said, whoever runs. Is that what just happened again? Like in the midterm elections, did everybody just vote against Trump? I don't know. He's kind of like a crazy genius. I don't know the right words, actually. Nobody has the right words for him. And he's like Bernie Sanders. He's like a different guy. He's a different guy than the normal system. But I wanted to just jump in and tell you astrologically, and I'll give a longer-winded talk on this, but I mean, ex-President Trump could win the next election. But at the moment, and I have been predicting, as you know, in the last couple of years that Ron DeSantis, from the governor of Florida, would be the guy. And right now he looks like he's the guy, doesn't he? After these midterm elections where we had a full moon with Uranus opposing. And interestingly enough, all the planets were like kind of well balanced, you know, but that Uranus is like an upset. And we had Tom Brady, who was like looking like he was on his way out into you know, he was never going to play good again, and he was losing games. And the great football player, Tom Brady, I'm not much into spectator sports, but you can't help but miss that. You can't miss that guy. He's pretty amazing. And he just like won the game at the last minute, driving the team down, right? The whole team, and he won the game. And he was brilliant. And he was as brilliant as Dougie MacLean can be over in Scotland. With his guitar, but Tom was brilliant with the football. So it was like an upset, you might say. And there was an upset in the elections, the midterm elections, and and you could tell that Trump has difficult aspects and Biden has good ones at the moment. But what I want to predict is that I'm predicting for 2004 November election for the president, I'm predicting that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, could win. His progressed Jupiter's on his Venus, progressed moon's trining his midheaven. He's got a ton of aspects that are very interesting. Jupiter's trining his progressed moon, Jupiter's conjunct his midheaven, Jupiter trine Sun, Saturn trine Mercury, where he's a pretty smart cookie. I don't think President Biden can win the next election. But see, you know, anything can happen. Nobody can really predict in astrology, absolutely, because everybody has free will. And there's higher and lower octaves. There's higher and lower octaves to every planetary aspect. For instance, President Biden with transiting Pluto opposing Jupiter, the market did fall a lot, you know, I mean, transiting Pluto in the second house of money, opposing Jupiter, other people's money. I mean, cryptocurrency lost tons of money. A lot of big corporations lost tons of money. Elon Musk, the guy that used to get a lot of money from tennis shoes. You know what I'm saying? So President Biden with Pluto opposing Jupiter, he appealed to the masses that were at the bottom of the gate, whether in age and young people or whether it was, you know, the poorer people, and it somehow worked for him. But he's got a ton of aspects that are very difficult, including that Pluto opposing Jupiter, because it could go backwards on him. but Uranus opposing his sun, as we go into the next election, he does have Neptune trine sun, but that could be somebody wins that he likes. That could be Gavin Newsom winning. Yeah, it could be if he appeals to the higher octave, like when you have Uranus opposing Sun, if you all of a sudden show that you're a genius and you can rediscover yourself every day and make up something new that will address the ever-changing situation. Yes, he could hit his higher octave, but he's got tough aspects. Pluto square Moon reminds me of Marianne Williamson's Pluto conjunct Moon. Again, this is an aspect where do you become empowered in a major way with the masses, or the feminine impulse of wisdom and smarts, compassion for those who suffer, or are you suffering your own collapse, or need to rediscover and renew and regenerate and take a break or something. Pluto is like, I think I was a major influence on coining that term a dozen years ago or more, like the plutocrat. And Pluto is those who rule by money, power, and authority, but it's also like the Buddhas and Jesus the Christ, the Gandhis, the Mother Teresa, the Saint Francis, the troubadours, the Dante. It's like having great compassion for. It's the majority of one that's going to do the right thing, no matter what anybody else does, and that could easily be Marianne Williamson for one, but it could be many of us. So I just wanted to jump in here in a short, it's been 7 minutes so far, to say that I'm predicting that Gavin Newsom could win the next election. And I don't think that who's in power now can win. Ron DeSantis has some really good aspects at the moment, and he has some good ones later. Any astrologer would tell you this is a real tough call, and I could change my mind later, but right now I want to predict that I think Gavin, I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. I've been poking around with people's charts, and when I stumbled upon his, I went, wow, this could be a good thing. So, if we had a different world than we have now, you might think that everybody would work with everybody instead of power grabs and undermining and backstabbing and power moves. I mean, gosh. So may wisdom and compassion and a higher truth that holds us awe, a great love that invokes this awe, and a great sense of humor that lets us be free of the seriousness of the moment so we can see something greater and more that would include us all. So I'm just wishing for the best for everybody, and that we can have beautiful losers like Bob Seger sings about, beautiful loser. And they're able to read it on the wall, so we can have people that get along. America, we can have our different opinions, but we have to join together to make the world a better place and a world at peace. And so may whoever's president find a way to help encourage world peace. And, may the day come where the greed profit out of war and medical industrial complex and the corporation, all that extra greed profit, tearing those pirates of industry, may everybody wake up, and may we somehow go back to the original ideals of that there's a great unity within the diversity, and that we need to see that all-permeating vast sense of holiness or God, the Christos, the Buddha, call it what you like, love and truth. There's no religion higher than truth. There's no science deeper than love. And there's no art greater than being a human being who unites the below and above in love, truth, courage, daring, to be a friend to all. Okay, this is Robert Thibodeau of Mayflower Bookshop making his latest prediction. Right now, as you notice, in November, mid-November, there's a lot of nice, beautiful aspects for friendship and love and connection and plans. And you have to be a little careful around November 18th and 19th with Mars square Neptune. People can make serious mistakes and crashes, and it's great for mystics and creative artists, but people have this sense of either being cold or fired up with anger and hate, and there's either fear that freezes you or like escape velocity with over enthusiasm that people just want to escape things and get high. And how do we find that middle way of the heart that unites the above and below? So Jupiter goes direct on the new moon, the 23rd of November. That's a major thing right there. The 22nd, Sun going into Sagittarius. You get the vibe. Sunday night going into Monday on the 20th of November when Sun trines Jupiter. But then we have this new moon where Jupiter goes direct on the 23rd. And that's going into Thanksgiving. And that's going to be like a very loving time, I think. And for many, it's going to be a time where we can see the future come, like what love and feelings we have to keep to carry into the future with friends, to find jobs that are worthy of our soul, that don't hurt our soul, and friends that help co-create and beautify this world. And then Mars trine Saturn on the 28th of November is a good, hard working day. You want to be careful of arguments with Mercury opposing Mars come the 29th. So there's kind of like a hard bottom line on 27th, 28th with that Mars trine Saturn. What work is there to do? And some people are working and some people are trying to escape and play around too much. And, you get kicked out of the ancient mystery schools if you made too many jokes. But you'd also get kicked out if you didn't have any sense of humor. And so that's going to be kind of a testy time there. As we go to the end of the month. And then as we go to December, it's very exciting with the Venus opposing Mars, the very end of November, but that last day of November and going into the first, for that weekend of December, that 1st of December, like who do you love? And we have to be a little gentle with people. With the Mercury square Neptune, we're not sure what's up, but the Moon conjunct Jupiter and the Venus opposing Mars is, and it's also a time where Mars is the closest of the year to the Earth. And so anger is when we take away another person's freedom and we force them to try to see what we're saying or doing. And we have to be very, very careful of moving too fast and having velocity crash us out. Being overcritical, but not constructively critical, not enamoring and invoking real change, just invoking reaction. So be careful around the 1st of December. And then I want to mention the full moon in Gemini, December 7th, and the moon occults Mars. So this first week of December is a time where if you have something important you're doing and you want to make your point or get something across to others or you want to initiate a project, one has to be careful of being too headstrong and too critical and negative and having a kind of a violent reaction. If people are violent or angry and hateful around you, you may try to do whatever you can to avoid escalating the situation. And patience is the antidote to anger, but who can be patient when you're angry? So catching yourself being angry, catching yourself making judgments about others, how they're bad, or you're better than them and you're going to make it and they're not going to make it. We need to project the divine in the divine. We need to divine the divine in each other and project that each of us is going to become a Buddha and Christ-like being, a bodhisattva. Each of us is going to become, for lack of better words, like this archetypal Messiah type thing, like that we're going to be humble enough to serve life, and everybody in it. So that's a tough time, I'm saying, and for misdirected energies, that first week of December going into the full moon, and the sun opposing Mars on the very early morning of the 8th. So that is like warring and crisis and shooting and gun issues and anger and jealousy and attachment and negative emotions. This is why Rudolf Steiner said that Christian Rosenkreutz, the Rosy Cross guy, sent Buddha to Mars or to the astral plane to help bring peace to the astral body. A lot of spiritual work and religious spiritual work is purification of the astral body. And there's plenty of Mars aspects here, which can be the Michaelic archangelic impulse for courage and truth and bravado and hero. But like when it comes to like football and games, and I mean, people can get hurt with these aspects, and using force is not really wise. And so there could be like major issues with politicians, issues with countries that are at war, at odds with what should be happening there. And it's almost impossible in this short astrological survey of November, December, along with my prediction for the next presidential election, it might be a little bit impossible to say enough good things. Okay, but I'm trying. Then we have Sun square Neptune on the 14th. Great time for dreaming about the future and reinterpreting the past in the light of new knowledge. But it's a bad day. It's like a difficult day you have to be like real clear, and there's a little bit of confusion when it comes to Sun square Neptune. It's very idealistic, but one has to stay practical. Mercury trines Uranus on the 17th, and so the 16th and 17th, going into the 18th even, are pretty smart. It's like a good time to get new ideas and new impulses in thinking. And so let's see, what else is in December that I want to mention? Sun square Jupiter on the 21st, when the sun enters Capricorn on the solstice. The solstice is at 4:48 p.m. on the 21st, and the moon goes into Sag earlier that day as the sun goes into Capricorn. And I think the moon in Sag with the sun in Capricorn depicts a winter, a quarter of the year coming up that will be a lot of us planting seeds or nourishing seeds that haven't yet bloomed or flowered. Perhaps it's that because the moon is in that fourth quarter, and the new moon is on the 23rd in Capricorn, but I'm talking about the solstice is a very holy time, and the Sun square Jupiter could be a festive time. Venus trine Uranus is special friends and relationships that matter around that time of the 20th, 21st, 22nd, and then we'll see if impulses that have begun can hold up in the coming week of December 23rd, 24th. At Christmas time, the moon conjunct Saturn. A lot of people might just be catching up. It's exciting Christmas Eve. The moon's in Aquarius, and it's kind of an exciting time, but as you get past into the afternoon of Christmas, it's more of a laid back time, and one wants to move slow and not be overindulging or in a negative mood. That one has to have a wisdom of all ages at that time. It's a great celebration from the winter solstice of the 21st all the way into January 4th or January 6th. That whole time period sets the pace for the whole year. I think especially around the solstice for 3 days especially is a really sacred time that sets the impulse for the whole year. And I have other talks on YouTube somewhere where I talk about the recapitulation of the Earth evolution and the 12 days of Christmas, but I'm not going to do that now. So Mercury goes retrograde on the 29th and very early in the morning. So when we get to the 29th with Mercury conjunct Venus, I think a lot of wisdom is going to come to people. People are going to realize like who is with them and who's not with them, and who do you love, and who loves you. And when you have that Mercury retrograde and you have the Mercury conjunct Venus and the Moon conjunct Jupiter on that day of Mercury retrograde, I think in the coming weeks, some people are going to do some of their greatest thinking and writing and creating and producing, and there's going to be really clear, beautiful conversations with people and understandings that are going to come. Okay, so I was only going to go short, and I've already gone 22 minutes, it's good, 21, 22 minutes, that's the tarot cards. So I look forward to speaking with you again and sharing ideas. Bless your heart. We're moving into a great 3 or 4 years here, where a whole new world is about to be born, and hopefully a peaceful, joyous, loving, kind, and truthful world. This is Robert Thibodeau of Mayflower Bookshop, a metaphysical bookstore, one of the best in the world, in Berkley, Michigan, at mayflowerbookshop.com and on YouTube and elsewhere. And I'm a student of the ancient mysteries and teachings of Theosophy and Rudolf Steiner Anthroposophy and Tibetan Buddhism, Osho, and Hermetics and Neoplatonism, Manly Haw, yoga, tarot cards, Hermetics. I've studied all this. It's very interesting. I want to say a last thought, that I hear people put down Osho and I hear them put down Blavatsky. And even some people put down Steiner, although it's harder because he's harder to understand. And most people aren't smart enough, I think, to really put him down or to say what he's really saying. I think, it's really difficult for me even. And I think it's interesting that when it comes to Blavatsky and Osho especially, I hear people put them down, but they haven't read them. And they can't quote them. And they can't tell you the key ideas. And that's pretty much the case with all those subjects I just mentioned. So I really think that if you have a brain and you're listening to this and you want to know something about esoteric, spiritual, religion, and virtue mind training, read Isis Unveiled by H.P. Blavatsky. Steiner said that Christian Rosicrucians wrote it through her hand. Read Osho and realize how many people would love to put him down. The Dalai Lama said he was totally enlightened and that he could deliver the goods. I think if you're stuck, he delivers the goods. If you're already a little bit wild, don't read Osho. Read Blavatsky. Read the Kabbalion of Hermetics, the Emerald Tablet. Read Neoplatonism. Read Manly Haw. That's fun. Okay, this is Robert of Mayflower Bookshop signing off. Let me know what you think. Ask me if you'd be interested in me in talking in certain subjects, and maybe I will. Love you. See you down the road.